Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my February 2019 horoscope report for you. Go to anniehelpsyou.com to check out my blog and all kinds of other goodies on my site, including enrollment for my astrology apprenticeship program if you'd love to learn astrology with me. Also, if you'd love to be a coach as your profession and bring your business online, my coach certification and online business training course is enrolling now. And I have launched my new publishing company, Luminous Life Publishing, Books and Beyond, and along with it, my new book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. So you can see more about this prayer book that is for all denominations at anniehelpsyou.com. So February is one of my most favorite months of the whole year of 2019 for so many things, for launches. Also, we've got 3 times the sweetness, 3 times as many sweet aspects this month. It is an amazing time to do anything important until around February 18th when we start shifting into Mercury retrograde shadow period. So I've got lots and lots of details about my favorite days to do important things, plus a massive amount of details specifically for you and your sign. So let's look at those details now. Hello, Gemini friends. Welcome to my February 2019 report for you. I'm trying out a different structure. As I've told you before, I'm an astrology teacher, so I love to go into the details, but I know that I do have viewers that are not interested in the technical part. So I'm going to just do a little general summary that is good for early, middle, and late for some points for Gemini. This way, you all who are not interested in the juicy details that are waiting in the wings over here, then you can just sign off after this couple of minute overview of what to expect for this month. So for all placements of Gemini, early, middle, and late, and if you don't know where you are in that, you don't even have to worry about this because this is relevant for everybody. There are going to be opportunities in relationships, finding perfect practitioners for you, having open possibilities with all of your relationships. So this is, marriage, partnerships of any kind, work partnerships, your neighbor, anything like that. So there's energy in the relationship sector that is lighting up for you this month. And in general, remember that when the planets, personal planets, start to move into Aquarius, that starts to make beautiful angles with your Gemini planets. So in general, especially the first 3 weeks of the month when the planets are really strong in Aquarius, that really lights up and flows really well with Gemini energy. So this time of year usually gives a nice boost to your placements. And then the last week of the month, when the placements start to move into Pisces, that brings a little bit more awkwardness and more emotion. Gemini in general is, more liking to do things and think things. And, of course, every human is emotional. But there are certain aspects of these astrological placements that make us enjoy certain things more. So Gemini energy likes to gather information. They like to be busy. They like to do things. And when that energy is going Pisces, it becomes more contemplative and more quiet and more kind of focused internally. So that's the last week of the month. You can expect, a little bit more focus on the emotions. Also, at that point, Mercury will start its pre-retrograde shadow period. So things that have been just like bursting outward really start just rolling back in a little bit again. All right, so we've got these relationship areas of focus. We also have the 9th house being highlighted for early, middle, and late. So this has to do with seeking creative solutions, teaching and learning. If you want to teach something, this is an amazing time to launch teaching opportunities, or if you want to learn something, this is an amazing time. Travel, especially long distance travel, is beautifully enhanced at this time for you. And anything involving like spiritual studies or things that connect to the bigger picture, so like anything where you're standing on top of a mountain looking down at the bigger picture, those things are beautifully focused on for this month. So in general, as you will see in greater detail in the general transits later, but if you're not going to stick around for that, I'll give you this quick overview now. One of my favorite months of the year for doing anything important. There are so many beautiful aspects. So in general this month, I love, love, love for Gemini, especially the first 3 weeks. Just sizzling with possibilities for you in all different areas, but especially relationships and these travel, teaching, learning, publishing also, writing, publishing, beautifully aspected for Geminis this month. Okay, so that's my quickie overview for you guys who are either impatient or uninterested in the technical aspects. But those of you who are interested in the technical aspects, we are going to have an astrological adventure now. So I'm very excited to break this down. Okay, so in order to understand the information that I'm going to lay out here for you, we have to do a little bit of background information. Okay, so we're going to look at designations of Gemini. There are 30 degrees in Gemini in the sign, 0 degrees up to 29 degrees. That stretches the length of the whole sign. So in these designations, there's early, middle, and late. So you can see where you are on this. Early Geminis are basically the May-born. There will be exceptions to this because the sun doesn't move into Gemini in the same day every year. So depending on when it moved in for the year you were born, this could be, slightly different. But in general, May-born or 0 to 9 degrees for early, middle degree, 1st through 10th, or 10 through 19 degrees if you're watching for your rising or rising or moon. And then late degree Gemini around June 11th through the rest of the sign, and 20 to 29 degrees if you know your degree placement. I do get the question a lot, is this for Gemini rising or is this for Gemini sun or what? The answer is for all of you. Anyone that has one of those important Gemini placements, this is going to be one of the charts that are relevant for you. We each have more than one chart that's relevant for us each month. I know that confuses things, but I did talk more about that in the January report if you want to go back there and learn more about that. Okay, so now that we've established, where you are, we can bring out some other pieces here. So this month I want to focus on Venus. Venus is super fun to focus on, and then Saturn, and Saturn is a mixed bag. Saturn can be amazing or it can be really hard. So I'm going to give you 2 quick astrology lessons, one about the spectrum of experience with Venus and one about the spectrum of experience with Saturn and the potentials. And then I'll show you in the early, middle, and late degree charts where each of these planets is going to be highlighted for you and what kind of things can come along with that. First, I want to give you a little background. When we're looking at a chart, I always see these glyphs as people. They all have personalities, and they all bring a certain energy. So my little analogy that I like to use is the planet. If you ever remember the game Clue, my friends who were born in the time when we played Clue board games, this was a murder mystery board game. It turned into a movie eventually and maybe other stuff. But so the planet is the who did it, okay? It's the personality type. It brings who and their personality is, being discussed. The sign that the planet is in is the energy they bring, or you could say what they did it with. So Colonel Mustard did it with the candlestick, and then the house is where in the conservatory. Okay, so it's very much like that. So all of these things that you're looking at can be broken down into these designations. So in order to better understand what Venus brings when it's in this area, we have to better understand what Venus brings. And the same thing with Saturn. So I'm going to add in a quick lesson on Venus and a quick lesson on Saturn, and then we'll come back to this, to these charts, and I'll show you in the charts for early, middle, and late where these planets are blessing and what kind of things you can expect. Okay, so when we're thinking about Venus or any planet, it really helps to understand the energetic expressions of the planets, the archetypal expressions of the planets, by thinking of them as people. They have personalities. So each planet has multiple facets that make up its expression. Okay, so Venus always reminds me of my Grandma Marge. And my Grandma Marge, if you can imagine, okay, she's Italian. She was always seemed like she was smaller than me, even when I was a child. So when I would come to see her, she would run up to me with her hands up in the air, grab me by the face, kiss me on the mouth, say, "I love you." She'd also tell all the grandkids how beautiful they are. Venus rules love. Venus rules compliments and self-esteem. She would then slip $5 in my pocket. Venus also rules money. And she would come at me with a fork and a meatball and pop a meatball in my mouth. Venus also rules sustenance, physical sustenance, and also emotional sustenance. So that feeling of being cared for, of being full, of being content. And it also rules aesthetics. So when we go into her house, there'd be this feeling of comfort and harmony and peace, which are also things that Venus rules. So it's like a cozy, warm, safe place with all of these energies wrapped up into it. So now you can understand Venus better, and you can always think of my Grandma March. So whenever Venus is moving through an area, the energy of the sign it's moving through will, flavor all of this. And then, of course, the house that it's moving through will show the field of experience that Venus will bring these potential blessings for the individual. Okay, so the house placement is going to be different for different people. And so we look to see what house Venus is moving through to see where these energies are having an increase in likelihood of manifesting. Okay, so understanding the archetype of the Saturnian energy can help us understand the potentials that Saturn brings when it is moving through wherever it is in the chart for us. So every placement, every sign, every planet has this range of potential expressions from lowest to highest. On the lower end, Saturn can bring hardship and difficulties and obstacles and challenges, feeling like you're walking through mud. It also very often comes with the experience of pressure. Pressure always makes me think of the pressure necessary to make a diamond, because that's what Saturn's trying to do. It's not just trying to torture you, Saturn is the taskmaster. It's stern. You can kind of just imagine. I always think of like a stern father, or really grandfather, like a grandfatherly energy that's stern. The energy often comes with wealth, the accomplishment of the Saturnian path. It's a wealthy taskmaster, stern and just sort of serious. So that it brings that energy. However, there is the other side. Okay, so the upper end of Saturn is that it can bring accomplishments. Okay, I'm going to just abbreviate accomplishments, fruition. It can bring things into form. So ideas, wishes, dreams that are up in the ethers, just kind of in the clouds. It can like gel them into form. And so Saturn transits can actually be times of great accomplishment, recognition, and gelling, like coming together. Many people experience Saturn transits as some of the best times of their life in that area of experience it's moving through. So what makes the difference between this side and this side? Usually I have found it's unresolved issues from the past, because these planets will test weak links. And if you have a perception, if you have anything that you brought with you from your genealogy, from your upbringing, from past life, however you want to look at this, any of these levels, Saturn's going to test these weak links. And it's going to want you to apply the taglines of Saturn, which are hard work, persistence, consistency. And when you apply these energies to whatever area, that it's, working with you, then you can convert these challenges into these outcomes. And that's really the point of it. So Saturn will show you the areas you still have to work, and Saturn will show up for you the areas where you have done work and convert them into outcomes. Saturn can definitely affect serotonin levels. It can be depressive as well. So for certain people, this may become relevant. But again, the consistency of, first of all, getting health back on track, or the consistency of inner work. Inner work is where you acknowledge that we live in a holographic reality and everything inside the person, going on all in there, all in your being, reflects outside into the external experience, and that's what we experience as our life. So when you own this part of it and you shift on the inside, then you change what you're experiencing on the outside, or how you experience what's going on in the outside. Okay, so understanding these energies of Saturn, then you can bring this whole equation to whatever field of experience Saturn is moving through. We look at the sign, and then that will be the global experience for everybody, Saturn moving through the sign that it's in. And then we look to the house to see for the individual signs what area of experience Saturn is bringing all of these Saturnian stories to. Okay, so I hope you loved my little mini astrology lessons for Venus and Saturn. Now let's look at where they are. So you can see for the early degree placements, Venus is in the 7th house, but it is going to move pretty quickly into the 8th house. But for the 7th house reading, it still will be relevant for you all in the early placement. It's just kind of in the beginning of the month. You middle degree placements, you have Venus further back here in the 7th house. So you'll have Venus's presence in the 7th house for a few weeks, a couple of weeks, depending on your exact placement, but maybe half the month or so. And then you late degree placements, you'll have Venus there for the whole month. So you can see it drops back for every designation we move here. So what is my grandma Marge doing in the 7th house? And actually, before we talk about that, let's group in you early degree placements who are about to have Venus go into the 8th house, because the 7th house and the 8th house are similar in the way that they're both partnership houses, relationship houses. So for all early, middle, and late degree placements, Venus is enhancing the 7th and then soon to be the 8th. And that's true for middle and late degree too. It'll just be staggered. Okay, so blessings in relationship, money-making possibilities, could be making money with your honey, could be finding love in your work, could be, the mixing of business and pleasure. Overall, it's just a basic harmony coming as a short-term potential into the relationship space. And this can also have to do with hiring perfect people that you need to help you with things. The 7th house is very much about getting help that you need. Kind of like staying in your department and finding someone, whether it's an accountant or a plumber or something like that, somebody who you contract to pay, usually with Venus here, is really enhanced. So this is an amazing time for hiring and for getting the help that you need for all early, middle, and late degree placements. It can also bring some sweet spots to relationship and just kind of smooth out things that might have been bumpy before. And of course, as I say this, always remember that all these things we look at are astrological potentials. Sometimes I'll have someone write and say, what you said didn't happen. And I think that's the silliest thing I've ever heard, because of course, all the potentials that I describe are not going to happen for everybody. These are potentials. And we don't know what's going to happen for you because your chart is way more complex than this general reading. First of all, we can't see what's happening in your natal chart. Second of all, if you're not a vibrational match for harmony in your relationship space, it doesn't matter if Venus is there or not. It's probably not going to happen. So you have to be accountable for what you're energetically casting out into the world. But if you're in sync, you definitely can have a boost there. Okay, so let's look at Saturn. When we're talking about outer planets, you can really see why I designate early, middle, and late and really talk about that, because Saturn has been moving through the 8th house pretty much all of February, all of 2018. Saturn has been enhancing the 8th house for early degree placements. But for you middle degree placements, just recently, like depending on your exact position, either the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, or will be happening very soon, you're just recently having Saturn in the 8th house and just recently having left the 7th house. But then for you late degree placements, you can see how Saturn is really just dropped back here. I guess it's harder to see on the way that this is, but it's not yet in the 8th house. And even though it looks like it's getting close, it's going to retrograde pretty quickly here and then just kind of go back in the 7th house. So you late degree placements, you have a while longer of Saturn in the 7th. You middle degree placements, you are now moving into having Saturn in the 8th. And you early degree placements, you still have longer of Saturn in the 8th. For you middle degree placements where Saturn has just recently moved out, you often will get a gift. Saturn busts your chops, makes you work hard, does all the things, that I was talking about. And then it wants to give you a gift. So the degree to which you have worked hard on the area that it just left, that's the degree to which you will get the gifts. So some people will be free of a difficult relationship. Some people will go deeper into a relationship that they want to deepen. Or have some other important relationship crop up in their lives, a new one or a development of an old one. So Saturn in the 7th for you later degree placements is still wanting you to be disciplined with your relationship space. So you'll have to put more work into your relationships now. And this is going to be true for all early, middle, and late, because since Saturn moved from the 7th to the 8th for early and middle, 8th is still a close personal relationship house. So the story of having to work hard, having to lay a foundation, having to build things is all applying to your relationship space. Working on a project with somebody, this often can bring in karmic relationships of a long-term nature, someone that you're bound to for a very long time. And sometimes that's a really good thing. If someone who's looking for a long-term stable relationship, a lot of times Saturn in the 7th and 8th can bring that in. And sometimes it brings on relationships that are heavy. Many, many, many humans have issues with codependency. And when Saturn comes into these houses, it really enhances the issue of codependency and brings it in your face. So like having a relationship that's a burden, having a partner who is an alcoholic or in some other way hard to manage. The stories of learning interdependence over codependence is really what is going on for Geminis right now. And this is really important to note because codependency was originally coined, like the codependent was the person who was not the alcoholic or the addict, and they were the person that just sort of had to deal with the erratic nature. But the definition is extended far, far beyond now. And really what I define codependency is a boundary disease. Not being able to know when you're supposed to step in to be the one that's taking care of something for somebody. In general, Gemini people that I know are super friendly, super helpful, really, perky attitude. And so sometimes people will take advantage of you, And this is a period of time for all early, middle, and late for you to be evaluating your relationships and seeing which ones may have to go and which ones can stay but really need to shift, and then doing the inner work and setting the boundaries in order to do that. So for you early and middle people, this story of the 8th house will continue everything that I just said, but it also talks more about relationships with resources. So like marital money, family money, borrowing money, getting loans for things, loaning people money, debt, everything having to do with those realms. Sometimes people will take on a lot of debt when Saturn is in their 8th house, but it can be purposeful debt. so like a 30-year mortgage. Saturn has a 28 to 30-year cycle. So a lot of 30-year, types of energies may be coming with things like that. And sometimes it's not 30 years, but it's just long-term in general. So if you need money for something, it increases the odds that you'll have access to money that you need, but that it will be a commitment and you'll have to do the work, in order to keep everything up. Okay, so these are the things that are most on my mind for Gemini this month. Now I want to give you the dates that I love, 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 the few dates that I'm concerned about that I want you to be extra careful around. In general, as I've said, February is one of my favorite months in the whole year for doing anything important. It's got such beautiful energy especially for Gemini with that beautiful Aquarius aspects that are happening, those beautiful aspects. So let's look at the details of the dates I love for launches and important things and ones to look out for and other things for this month. So the theme of the month for February 2019 for all signs is 3 times the sweetness. And that is because literally we have 3 times as many sweet aspects as we do challenging ones. In the beginning of January, we started these really nice open skies with the stars, the planets moving direct. But January was a little bit dicey in the way that we had 2 powerful eclipses. And for some people, those brought amazing positive changes. For others, very stressful changes. And some people were just holding space for others as they went through the changes. And some positive changes still could have carried some stress because of just the newness of them. Trying to get into a new rhythm or having it come all of a sudden can carry its own kind of stress, even if it's a very positive thing. So February is going to have a totally different energy. The open stars of having all the planets be direct is going to continue through February 18th. So we've got all that going on. And then, like I mentioned, we actually have a massive amount of sweet aspects. We do have a second supermoon that is at its 1st degree. So this whole energy of clean slate is continuing. And that's just a very, major theme for all of 2019, actually, that's being initiated here at the beginning. I'm going to give you a list of the days that have sweet aspects and a list of the days that have challenging ones, and then we'll go into some more details. But definitely remember to go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and sign up for my free email newsletter to receive a written version of these general transits delivered into your inbox a month early so that you have them visually for planning purposes. Okay, and if you are already on my email list and you're not getting my emails, then definitely check spam, social, events folders, and move them into your inbox to get your inbox the message that you want them there. Okay, so the sweet days are going to be, let's just make a little list over here. And so the sweet days, these happy ones, are going to be the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, 4th, 7th, 9th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 22nd, 23rd, and 27th. Okay, the challenging ones, and as I give you these dates, remember that we often feel the energy of a transit before or after the actual transit, so don't hang your hat too heavily on the exact date. Just know that present and the days around these days are the transits. Okay, so the challenging ones, where we'll just kind of put a little guy having some difficulties there. Okay, so we have a challenging transit around the 1st, the 12th, the 14th, and the 22nd. And also in those days at the end of the month, there's, on March 1st, there is a challenging aspect, so you might feel some of that in the days at the end of the month. But in general, you can see a lot more sweetness there. And when you track this over time, you can really see a difference, like the mood of the month is very much directly affected by the amount of sweet aspects we have versus challenging ones. Okay, so let's just do a little summary of some of the major ones here, and then definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to get a list of the rest and what you can experience with them. So on the 31st, I'm going to list the Saturn in Capricorn, sextile Neptune in Pisces again. Okay, so let's see. Saturn there. Neptune there. Because as you can see, like here at the beginning of the month, they're only a degree apart. So that aspect, that beautiful 60-degree angle, it's one of the most favorable in astrology, is still going to be echoing out for many days, even a couple of weeks, the first couple of weeks of February. You'll be feeling the sweet vibes from this sweet lineup. Whenever planets that are outer planets get together in any configuration, they last longer than the ones that move more quickly. Okay, so you'll be feeling those sweet vibes. And in general, this is characterized by material gains coming from spiritual focus and pursuits, or artistic focus and pursuits. So kind of like a blending of the sides of the brain, a blending of the seen and unseen. Okay, so the next thing around that time, and this is one you really got to watch out for. Mars in Aries square Pluto in Capricorn. Okay, so we got Mars in Aries there. Pluto in Cap here. You can see they're at 21 degrees right from the beginning there. So they're matching. And that's a square. That's like a, we don't like that one as much. Now, it is true that challenging aspects can definitely spark something important. And for the seeker, we don't have to look negatively upon these challenging aspects, because they could sometimes give us the catalyst that we need to do something, or it could be a conflict that sparks a breakthrough. But as far as like your general safety, definitely be careful around those days, because it's just the kind of energy that could actually be dangerous. You don't want to antagonize a crazy person in the beginning of the month there. You want to be careful with your physical body. You want to guard your head, guard your bones. Okay, so now we start the sweetness spree. Venus and Uranus getting together on February 2nd. So we've got Venus here. We have Uranus here. Okay, so this is going to move into configuration with this. Venus rules love, beauty, money, self-esteem, design projects. Uranus is the great awakener, the great bringer of surprises. So in the days before and after the 2nd, sweet surprises are more likely. And of course, that's happening at the same time as that awkward, possibly dangerous aspect the day before. That's why I always say we have to remember, like, these are layers of a truth that are happening all at once. And if you're trying to plan a launch or doing something important, your personal experience is going to outweigh any date something is, quote, supposed to be good. You may feel the icky aspect earlier and then the nice one later. You just got to tune in. But if you know what's going on, it helps you to follow these things. And I see it happen all the time, that people who are sensitive, people who are empathic, people who are paying attention will tend to feel like, wow, something's up in the stars, And so you have your answers here as to what's going on. Another sweet aspect on the 3rd between Mercury and Jupiter. Where are the buddies? Okay, Mercury and Jupiter. I'm going to move into configuration there. So that is really great for anything important: communication, mobility, important connections, travel, could manifest in wonderful ways, having to make important purchases for devices or cars. I love this energy for that. Then we've got the new moon at 15 degrees of Aquarius on February 4th. So lots of sweet energy there. This new moon is also in a conjunction with Mercury and a beautiful aspect with Jupiter, which enhances it. Then the sun, on the 7th, the sun is in a beautiful aspect with Jupiter. So whenever anything is in a nice aspect with Jupiter, it's like benevolence, good luck, sweetness. So the sun will move there. And then, of course, these will be together as well. So that could bring important news, important connections. More sweetness and positive surprises on the 9th with Mercury and Uranus getting together. The 12th and 13th, this is one of those times to watch, because this is where Mars and Uranus get together in Aries. So both of those can be a little bit aggressive, can be a little bit jarring. Aries energy can be a little bit physically, could be dangerous. So just watch your body. And Aries rules the head. So, and again, just don't antagonize crazy people. If you're driving, it's not the time to like make some sort of negative movement towards a driver that you don't like. And also things like not texting when you're walking, just paying extra attention in the days around the 12th and 13th, because tensions will be running higher. So I always say you can prepare for these kind of energies by trying to rest, get good sleep, be relaxed, so that when they come, you can kind of just navigate through them as a spiritual ninja. I always use the example with aspects like this, like if you're a grandparent and you have your grandkids coming to visit, you could either leave out all your white linens and all your white stuff, only to have the kids destroy them, because that's just what kids do when they're playing, right? Or you can swap them out for the kid-friendly things and then have a rest-free time, so that when the chaos and madness comes, that all the things that you want to remain safe are, and you don't have to stress about them. So that's what I always think about when there's an aspect like this. Like if you know some stress is coming, and you just kind of like, take your magnesium, take your B vitamins, you just have your coherence plan situated, then it makes it much easier. Okay, so back to sunny skies and sweetness again with our little happy cloud there, with the 17th and 18th. We've got Venus in Capricorn making a beautiful aspect to Neptune in Pisces. And, okay, so let's show you where that is. Let me say there, Venus in Cap. Okay, so you can see here Venus is in Sag, but it is going to move into Capricorn by the 17th and 18th. And that's going to make a nice aspect with Neptune here. Dreamy, creative, spiritual breakthroughs, things like that. And then the Sun in Aquarius is going to come together with Uranus at this point in a beautiful way. Okay, so that's later in the month when this joins into a configuration with this. But again, the 17th, 18th, just sweetness. I love it for important things. Love, money, idealism, romance, art, creativity, expression of every kind, action, motivation, inspiration are just all enhanced beautifully at this time. And then the full moon, that second supermoon of the year. Supermoon is a moon that is actually closer to us. When you look at it, you're like, what? Why is the moon so big? It's because it's closer. And of course, it exerts more gravitational effects when it's closer. So it tends to be more intense, more emotional. So do prepare for an extra emotional full moon. But for the most part, there are sweet aspects with this full moon, with 0, almost 1 degrees of Virgo on the 19th. So lots of wonderful things coming to fulfillment, fruition. Could be some drama. Some people experience negative drama at the full moons, but there is a lot of sweetness at this particular full moon. Moving along to the 22nd, we've got a square. That's one of our challenging aspect days. We've got a square with Mercury and Jupiter. And where are you guys? Okay, so Mercury is going to come and Jupiter is going to be in a square. Of course, Mercury is not going to be here at this point. It's going to move over there, and that's where the square is going to happen. But, communication, mobility, things like that, kind of getting a little pressure from Jupiter. Even when Jupiter has kind of like a challenging aspect, it tends to manifest in a softer way than the rest of the outer planets. So I usually list like just exhaustion for this one, like being overtired. And of course, if you're going because of all these sweet aspects and because you have this open window and because, the Mercury retrograde shadow period is going to start on February 19th, which is true, then you could be tired because you're trying to fit a lot in. And really, it is important to note that I love, love, love this month up until about the 18th or 19th. So we'll just say February 1st through the 19th, or we'll even just say the beginning of January. But since we're in February, we'll talk about this through the 19th here. is some of my best favorite launch times in the whole year. You will have other opportunities, but in April, Jupiter is going to go retrograde, and it's always nice to have Jupiter direct when you do important things. And then, of course, we don't have as many retrograde issues as we did last year, but it really is good to take advantage of this time. I know that I'm planning to just run it really hard until around this point, and then just start to roll in the backdrop again. Okay, so another sweet aspect on the 23rd. Actually on the 22nd, there's one that could go either way. Venus gets together with Pluto. So Venus will make it over here to connect with Pluto. And that, Pluto's intensity, and Venus is love and money and self-esteem and things like that. So that could kind of go either way. Some intense news or an intense experience with love or money. Could be an ego battle, something like that. Another sweet aspect on the 23rd, another sweet aspect on the 27th, and then on March 1st, we've got that square with Venus and Uranus. It's going to come over. Of course, you can't see the square actually happening here now because Venus will have moved quite a bit, and that's when it will come into the square configuration, which is a challenge. So those days at the end of the month, there could be, love spats, money issues, things like that. But remember that when we're talking about aspects like with Venus, usually it blows over in a couple of days. So it's not always a big deal. It might feel kind of stressful at the time. So these are the things that are most on my mind for the general transits. Really sweet month full of awesome possibilities, amazing for launches moving forward, some of the best stars of the year for doing important things. So definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can check out my blog. You can check out my astrology apprenticeship program if you love how I teach astrology and you'd like to learn for your own personal or professional purposes. If you'd love to be a coach as your profession and bring your business online, I can teach you how to do that. You can check out my coach certification and online business course, also at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely check out my new publishing company, Luminous Life Books and Beyond, along with my new book, Radical Prayer. Transform your life and the world in 28 days with these magical, powerful, super effective prayers and affirmations. So you can see that at anniehelpsyou.com along with all kinds of other goodies. If you'd love written horoscopes by me, you can check out my website, cozybysweetstarlight.com. At cozybysweetstarlight.com, I write written horoscopes, often with different information than I share in the reports. And I always put those up a month early as well. And I've got all kinds of other lifestyle blogs written by me and other up-and-coming bloggers. If you are a traveler, you can check out my website, astrologykissedtravelbliss.com, for astrology travel reports monthly. If you are going to travel, you can see what the stars are like for traveling. And I also have other blogs on there. And definitely check out my husband's website, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. He's always got new and different things on there, so you can check out his tarot offerings, and he also does astrology readings as well. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye!